Millennium was a web challenge with difficulty rating 2 out of 4 from the recent HackTheBox Apocalypse CTF. In its description, we are given nothing useful and we have not been given the source code either. We only have a Docker instance to which we can connect. We can try and connect to the given port and IP using our browser, and we are presented with a login panel. So we can try default credentials such as admin and password. It doesn't work. Then we try admin and admin, and we are able to sign in. And we are redirected to a /do launch web page, and it says welcome to launchpad. Then it presents us with two inputs, country and worm. So we can type in any country we want and then choose any worm, click launch, and it will say attack launched successfully. So till now there is nothing useful in this web application. So let us send this request over to BurpSuite and see what we have. So now we can send this request over to BurpSuite filled with random values, and we can choose any of these options. Click launch and this will send a post request which we have captured in BurpSuite. Now we are going to send this to repeater and click forward. And then in the repeater tab we can inspect our request and we see the country and the worm parameters, and then we can now press Ctrl and space and send it, and we see that the attack is launched successfully, and now we can start playing with this request. Looking at the request in BurpSuite, we can see that this is firstly URL encoded and looks like base 64. So first we can decode this from URL. Now copy this, take it over to our terminal, paste it and then decode it. And we see some random bytes before the worm and our choice. So what are these random bytes? Now if you looked at the base 64 clearly, it starts with small r, capital O and then a 0. And if you know, then this is how all the serialized objects in Java which are encoded in base 64 start. So if I have a serialized object of Java and I encode it in base 64, it will always start with small r, capital O and then 0. If you did not know that, then you could have obviously guessed that this is a Java application by looking at the J session ID, which is only used by Java applications. So now we know that this is a Java serialized object. So this would probably mean a deserialization vulnerability of Java. So we can simply go first turn intercept off and then Google deserialization vulnerability Java, and we can go to the payloads all the things cheat sheet. So search payloads all the things and we have insecure deserialization of Java, and it says that to exploit this we can use the ysoserial tool, which we are going to be using right now. So I already have the ysoserial tool cloned in my op directory. So we have this jar file which we can run with java-jar ysoserial, and it will show us all the available payloads. So java-jar, and it tells us all the available payload types. So what we can try to use is this commons collection. So java-jar file name, then the payload we want to use, and then the command. So since this is a public website and we would need a public IP in order to exploit this, what we can do is use ngrok, which provides us with a public URL and forwards all the requests to that URL to our local ports. So what we can do is use the ngrok tool. If you do not have it installed, you can install it using apt or other package managers. So ngrok http 80, and this will expose our port 80 via this URL. So it says that forwarding this port to our local host 80. Then we can open a new terminal. Since I have Apache running, I can stop it, and then we can listen on port 80 with KLVNP option. So what the K will do is keep listening for connections. So now we can copy this URL, and if we perform a call request on this, sorry, we should listen on port 80. And now if we do a curl, we should see our request come through. So we can kill this, go back to our ysoserial payload and type in curl and then the URL. Now we see all these random bytes. We can now pipe this over to base 64 with -w0 to disable word wrapping, and now copy all of this payload. And you can see that it also begins with small r, capital O and 0, since it is a serialized object. Now we can replace the worm with this and select all of it and URL encoded. With Control U, pressing Control space will send this, and then we can see if we got a hit back. And we see that we did not get any connection back. So let's try some other payload. Instead of commons collections 1, we can try commons collections 2, base 64 encoded, and this is larger. So I will use utility setClip to copy this to my clipboard. Then worm is equal to this thing. Then select all of it, URL encoded. With Control U, press Control space to send this, and let's see if we get any request back. And we see a connection received on our local port, get/request user agent curl, and forwarded for this IP address, which is the same as our target. So we have successfully gotten command execution. So now if we want, we can use a Python script to do that, but it is just going to get tedious. So we can now simply start executing commands and then exfiltrating out the output using curl. But a problem with ysoserial is that we cannot use output redirection like this or backticks or pipes. So what I'm going to do is use a modified version of ysoserial, which is available on GitHub. So if we simply Google ysoserial modified, we should be able to find the Git repository, this one. So it is an updated version for Java deserialization, which allows us to use all of the output redirection and things. So we can run it in the same way as the previous one. First java-jar, then the file name. It will show us all the options, and we can use the same commons collections 2. So java-jar file name, commons collections 2, and then our command. So we want our command to be this curl plus our URL, which is going to be this, and then we can convert this into a post request and dash data. What data do we want? Put in backticks ID and encode it with base 64. So this is the command that we want. We want it to run curl on the URL that will be forwarded to us, send in a post request with the data, let's say C is equal to, then the command that we want to run. In this case, we want to run the ID command, and we are going to encode it with base 64 to ensure that the spaces and new lines do not mess up our request. We can simply press enter, and we see that it did not work. Why did it not work? So it wants us to also specify the terminal type. So the terminal type in this case is going to be bash. and we have this payload which we can now encode with base64 and copy to our clipboard. Now we can go back to BurpSuite, delete all of this, paste our payload and URL encode this. Now pressing Control space will send this, and we can see on our terminal we should receive a request, and we have received a request that C is equal to this thing. Now we can copy this, open a new terminal, do echo that thing, then base64-d decode, and we have got the output of the id command, which is root. So now we can simply cat out the flag. Since we are the root user, the flag can be in our home directory, which is /root. So a good place to search would be that directory. So what we can do is create another payload, which now is going to be ls-l/root. Now again we can take this to decoder, paste it in here, encode it as URL just to make things easier. Copy this, take it over to repeater, paste it and press Control space. And now we should see our request, and here we have it. Simply copy this, take it over to bash, do echo that plus base64 decode, and we see a flag.txt. And now we can simply cat that out. So cat /root/flag.txt encoded in base64. So again we go back to decoder, paste this in, copy this, go to the repeater tab, select this thing, delete this all, paste, Control space, go back to our terminal. Why does BurpSuite keep popping up? Go back to our terminal and we see the base64 encoded output. Copy this, take it back to another terminal, base64 decoded, and we have our flag. Sweet lead serials. So that was the solution to this challenge. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.